Court Reporter with Stovalls and Associates.
We're back with Nye County District Attorney Brian Kunze. Before we went to the break, we were talking about some of the internal communications as far as with your district attorneys. One of the things that that has been of controversy lately was the public defender's contract, and in fact how it's been fractured. Meaning that at one time, I guess, a majority of the work was being housed by one local law firm, and today, what was it, December or January 2nd?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was approved that, in fact, now you're going to see solo attorneys taking roughly 20% of that workload. Can you kind of tell us about how that idea came about and came to fruition?
Well, it came about, and you know, I don't know that I really sense a great deal of controversy. I mean, you've had people
Squeaky wheel, how about that?
You've had people who were taking and getting paid a good deal of money who probably aren't going to be seeing that much money, upset about it. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I'm not going to apologize for that. I mean,
Right.
Everybody wants to talk about the public defender contract, but the public defender contract was a fraction of what we were spending for representation, you know, through, you know, what we call indigent, you know, individuals.
Right. Or persons that can't afford counsel.
I mean, we were spending between 1.2 and 1.3 million dollars the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And the public defender contract was only $550,000.
Right.
And so the problem is what happens is when you have one law firm who is the public defender, when an attorney in that law firm has a conflict, nobody in that firm can represent anybody on that case.
Right.
And so we were bringing in outside attorneys who were acting as public defenders that were paid on an hourly basis.
Right.
And so while we were paying, you know, $550,000 for the law firm, we were paying over $800,000 for all of these groups of conflict attorneys. Mm-hmm. And so it became very evident that what we need to do, and other counties have done it, they run a similar system in Clark County where you pay individual attorneys a salary, mm-hmm. But they're not part of a firm. So therefore now where we had 3 attorneys handling most of the public defender work, let's say here in Pahrump, in one law firm, conflicts, that's one person. Mm-hmm. Now, when we have conflicts, we can go to 3 different attorneys,
right,
who are all paid a salary before we have to dip into a conflict pool.
And the spend is exactly the same.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Now, I think it's probably worth noting that you're in a bit of an anomaly being in Nye County, specifically Pahrump, because there's the exception made for attorneys to also be in private practice in addition to servicing, say, a county contract because of a population being...
That's correct, yes.
What's the population threshold? I don't recall.
It's not a population threshold. It's just the categories of where you fall and how they've divided Nevada up.
Okay.
You've got Clark County, Washoe County, and then we're in the 3rd group. So everybody in the 3rd tier and down
rural
can
counties
have
or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then that's how these conflicts would come into play.
Well, the conflicts really don't come more from the standpoint of, you know, if we have a case that has 3 defendants. Mm-hmm.
Right.
One criminal defense attorney cannot represent another co-defendant. You have to have 3 separate attorneys.
So therefore, the other 2 would be conflicted
Yeah, and so we would have the firm would represent one of the defendants, and then 2 other attorneys would be paid on an hourly basis to represent those 2.
Right.
And now, by breaking up the law firm and then having those 3 attorneys represent 3 different clients, mm-hmm. we can now basically go with the structure we have up to 5 cases. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not perfect because we just had a massive drug bust. I think you saw on the news this week. There's 12 people involved.
Right.
So we are going to have to still have conflict attorneys.
Right.
But the amount of cases where we need the conflict attorneys will be greatly reduced by the structure that we've put in place.
So you on the surface, you believe that the savings will be tremendous for the county?
Oh, I think really we expect probably between $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
Wow.
Savings to the county.
It's tremendous. So as far as just to kind of cap the conversation, it's 4 attorneys in the Pahrump area that would handle majority, and then you have 1 in Tonopah?
1 in Tonopah, that's correct.
Okay, so there's 5 total.
5 total, yes.
Public defenders, quote unquote.
Yes.
On the take right now.
That's correct.
Gotcha. It did bring up some of the controversy as far as how those individuals were chosen. And we've saw some press on this. Can you talk about procedure? Would that typically be open to, say, the same bidding process that would, say, like a construction contract be?
Well, this case was really quite different, principally because of the fact that we already had a contract with the existing law firm.
Okay.
So we could not change the existing system that was really in contract in place for another year and a half. So we had to deal with those 3 attorneys in that law firm. So
in order to break it up?
In order to break it up, we had to do that. So 3 of the 5 pieces basically were preordained from the standpoint of just because of contractual relationships
Right.
we had with them. The other positions, and there was one that we had who's been doing the Tonopah work for us anyway.
Right.
So that's really 4. But then we were talking about maybe splitting one of the contracts here in Pahrump into 2, so we bring in 2 separate attorneys, basically for a half contract. Those actually have not been filled yet.
Okay.
Those will be determined by the county manager. And so any attorney who's interested, they should be, submitting information, to the county manager, who will then make that decision. But the general process is it's not the same bidding as you see where we pay the lowest bidder.
Right.
Professional service contracts are done differently. And you're hiring more based on, because you want to consider their skills, different aspects other than just what the price is.
Sure.
But in this particular case, though, too, we're not really. There's not going to be negotiations going on.
So in 3 of those attorneys, there are actually contingencies in place in order to execute on the idea that you had, that in fact for them to bless the dissolution of the contract, they had to have been named as the successors. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. That begs to say, though, do you actually have an established proposal bid process right now outside of professional services contracts that's regular and repeated?
Oh, very much so. We have a purchasing department. She actually is housed in Tonopah.
Oh, okay.
And she handles all of the contracts that come through, and all the bidding process. And there's very formalized process when it comes to bidding on projects. And take the Blag Road reconstruction we
Right.
did. I mean, as a prime example.
Right.
Basically,
That's a whole nother show.
that is a whole nother show. And we probably ought to maybe dedicate a show to that, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding.
I'm sorry, we got to go. Every time it goes too fast. I appreciate you being on tonight, and maybe we'll have you back again soon.
Sounds very good. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Thursday, 5:30. Thanks.
Court reporter with Stovall and Associates.